Falcha, welcome. This is video number 4, our second video this weekend of the Convoluted Universe Book 1 by Dolores Cannon. We just finished Atlantis. Now we're on Chapter 7, The Mystery of the Pyramids. So she started a new session with the guy Phil, and Phil says that all information can be accessed. All of history is available for us to access if we would just get our act together. Clothes are falling off. Cannon says, well, okay, everybody wants to know, how were the pyramids built? And the answer is levitation, mental energy. It required focus and concentration. They were also able to soften the stones, manipulate them, and reharden them. A group of 5 to 7 priests would know how to do it, and the pyramids were the gift of knowledge from Atlantis. So the priests that escaped, remember in the bubble from Atlantis, they brought this knowledge with them. Get this out of the way here. They used levitation with their minds and singing of tones. Now, this is not the first time this has been mentioned, but it's the first time in this book that we've talked about it. They didn't just use their minds all the time. They combined telepathy with sound, and sound is vibration. We don't even need to explain it. Sound is vibration, so of course that's what they did. They considered it both a science, engineering, physics, and a religious experience. The stones were cut from quarries and moved by telepathy from far away. The priests accompanied them on chariots. They had to keep the stones in sight because they were moving them with their heads, with their consciousness. The energy of levitation is still stored in the pyramids. Remember, energy doesn't dissipate. It doesn't disappear. It changes form. And it was stored inside the pyramids. And the stones of the pyramids act like storehouses for this energy, like a crystal would. This is similar to information that she gets in this book here, is similar to information she got when she did Jesus and the Essenes. They used sound energy to protect themselves from their enemies. They didn't need weapons. They used sound. They would chant together, and however they did it, they were protected. The other subject described the Essenes moving building stones with sound, with rows of people. I don't know if I will read this whole description. If I remember correctly, it's kind of lengthy. Yeah, I'm not going to read it. I recommend you read this book. But suffice it to say that they stood in groups and used telepathy and sound to move things, and it was a ceremonial thing. It's in the Bible. Not everything in the Bible is untrue, and not everything in the Bible is true. But there are these kernels of truth that are so interesting. This is one of them. Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho, and the walls came a-tumbling down. Sound vibration. I've had this happen to me. This is interesting little story, a little aside here. You see cartoons, you know, they'll show you opera singers or sing and a glass will break. Well, some people can hit a note that's vibratory level will break a certain kind of crystal, which is just a different vibratory level. My husband and I were sitting once, this is really a long time ago, back in California, when we were young, no children. And we had a crystal ashtray. It was a wedding present, and it was just sitting there, minding its own business. There was nothing in it. We weren't using it. We were sitting talking, and it was just really casual. There was nothing remarkable. And all of a sudden, the crystal ashtray just cracked in half and fell into 2 equal pieces. And I think at that point, he thought, is it too late to annul this? But that is not that unremarkable. that happens. And just keep that in mind the next time something like that happens in your house. Ask yourself, well, what was my energy up to then? Soldiers. You see soldiers marching in lockstep? There's a point to that. It's an ancient callback to a time when they knew that sound meant something. Bagpipes marching into war. There was a reason for that. It creates vibrations. They can break a bridge by the vibrations of marching. Sometimes they have to stop marching in lockstep when they go across a bridge because they don't want it to fall apart. And it's not the weight, it's the vibration. So we don't know why the Essenes didn't use sound against the Romans at Qumran. Remember the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the community was destroyed? Perhaps they knew that it was necessary at the time for this to happen, that there was something karmic. So back to the pyramids. You can see an increase in sophistication of the design as the priests got better at what they were doing. Anyone can learn to do it. The pyramids contained stored human energy, so strong that the energy can kill. It's not a curse. So if you were in balance and you were open to receiving the energy, you could gain access to the knowledge stored in the stone energy. It's not a thing, it's an energy. There are other global pyramids from the same sort of survivors, and some were built with this ability and some were built with much more conventional techniques because they lost the knowledge and they were trying to recreate what they remembered. So after the next cataclysm, the pyramids of Atlantis are going to rise again from the sea, and their knowledge will be released. Wow. So the pyramids were built as a monument to knowledge and the pinnacle of human understanding. They are a litmus test of human evolution. And when we're ready, we'll be given the information. And once again, happy to have this confirmed by these entities speaking through her hypnotic subjects. They were not intended as burial places. You tell people that and they freak out, you know, but that's not what their purpose was. We can't replicate the tones that they used in levitation through synthesizers. It's a different vibration. It has to be mental energy. ETs propel UFOs with mental energy and manipulation of other energies like electromagnetic manipulation of gravity, anti-gravity movement, you know. Pyramids are a psychoreactive element of the energy on our planet. Wrap your head around that. Think about that. Which is why I said the other day, I strongly feel that guns, how did they put it, are a psychoreactive manifestation of the negative energy. We have the most guns in the world, and we have the most gun deaths in the world. If guns made you safe, why are their deaths higher than anybody's? Sorry, I'm digressing. So a stimulus, the pyramids are a stimulus for those who try to raise their awareness. People often describe this remarkable feeling when they're at the pyramids. Now, I've never been fortunate enough to go there, but I've been to Newgrange. I know I've said this before. The energy there, I can't describe it. It was incredible. And I asked my husband the other day, you know, what did he feel when he was there? He goes, yeah, it was really interesting. And I thought, oh, okay. But I think you have to be, I don't want to say you have to be looking for it because that sounds like you're talking yourself into it. And it's not like that. I think you have to be open to it. And he's just, you know, he's a happy tourist. He likes to go places and look at things. And I was going for a completely different reason. And I think that makes a difference. But anyway, so the pyramids are a stimulus for those who try to raise their awareness. So we amplify the earth energy by trying to tune into it with the pyramids, and they also transmit our energy from the earth to other galaxies. The truth is not that it's just an abstraction. This is a reality, and it can be used. We just have forgotten how. It's all about the law of cause and effect, and these can be a reflector or a filter. It's like directing a beam. The pyramid's like a reflection of truth. And when we start talking about this stuff and thinking about it in those terms, it really is mind-blowing. But they were also used as observation points. You know, they could calculate the stars. They had mathematics built into them, geometry. And the pyramid, they were used to chart the heavens and to map time and establish location of the earth in relationship to the sun. So we have the same abilities to move the stones as the pyramid builders in Egypt and Peru and Mexico. We think we're so big. So these big stones were set with thought. She's told that thought is faster than lasers. It's the fastest laser. Each of those blocks is a thought. A stone is a living being. It just has a different mass and energy. Everything is alive, vibrating at different levels. The slower it vibrates, the denser it is. Stones have very dense energy, but they have an energy. Thought is faster than light, faster than sound. The gradual loss of your ability to focus your thought and to use sound, gradually we're separated from the source and lost our ability to move these blocks. After the cataclysm, the Atlanteans came back from the stars and seeded different areas, as we discussed, and gradually the knowledge was lost. We had to start over. They couldn't just start from the old times. And they were small groups or individuals who went off to make new communities, and they lost the ability to use the strength of large group thought, and eventually it all got lost because they were in too small a groups and they forgot about it and it didn't get passed down and there weren't enough people, etc., etc. Struggling to survive. The pyramid's a storehouse of knowledge of the creation of the earth and its purpose. Man has lost the capacity to use his mind to the fullest. We need to open it up and accept that there are no limitations. We're only limited by ourselves. We'll be given more information in the future. The energy of the pyramids is being reactivated, and there will be new changes in that area. The pyramid is not a tomb. It remains, we're not ready. Oh, I'm sorry, humans were not ready for information and to accept that the pyramid carries the mystery of creation of the universe and all its knowledge of the earth and the universe as the stars. It's too much for us to handle at the time. Then she does a session with Brenda talking about the pyramids. The pyramids were built by the Atlanteans. They were part of a complex science, and when other parts were destroyed, the pyramids could not function as designed. They were part of a system, and some of the parts, the tools of the system, were lost. They were meant to interact, to do celestial calculations like a computer, and to manipulate energy for uses that we don't even have words to explain, she was told. Cannon had another subject named Steve who did regressions confirming that mind and sound were used to manipulate energy to move and shape stone to build pyramids. He described large tuning forks that touched the stone and helped to move it. And the minds of pure-minded individuals in a group amplified the effects of the fork and the sound. And I believe that's also in Jesus and the Essenes. Another subject, this is just confirmation from, she's collected these stories for decades. Another person said that construction was directed by ETs from flying discs. The goal was to direct the energy into space to contact Sirius. And this may have been a different time period too. An unbroken circle of workers went around the pyramid site, and they used energy from the disc the energy from the disc went to the supervisors. The supervisors were more advanced vibrationally, human, but more advanced. And then they were able to send this all around the circle to the people, and with sound and thought, they lifted the stones. Then she did a session with a woman named Marie who saw a machine that contained the energy source. She was in a lab in the far past, using energy to put life back into dead bodies. And this was being done by ETs. She says she felt like she was in Egypt, and there's a lot of speculation about where Egyptian civilization came from. It seemed to spring up from nothing, and they had Akhenaten and, you know, the monotheism that he brought. I mean, when he died, the pharaoh Akhenaten, they went and destroyed all of, you'll see Egyptian statuary and cartouches and frescoes and stuff, and his face is always destroyed. And they're the ones that had the big head. I don't know. I'm just saying. So they were trying, they had a memory of this machine that they used to put life back. And they were trying to replicate this on mummies. So many of their population had died as a result of the cataclysm that they didn't have enough people, and they were trying to replace themselves. And they did this process of wrapping genetic material in a cocoon and zapping it with energy, and that helped to bring it back to life. It reactivated the life force of the body. It has to do with soul. It was creating a pathway for a soul. So they didn't fully understand what they were doing after this cataclysm. The Egyptian custom of mummification came much later. They were trying to replicate this process that they really didn't understand, didn't have the equipment for, and, you know, and they were doing it in a completely different way. And they knew it would work, but they didn't know how to get it to work. They no longer had the tech. So chapter 8, Unexplained Mysteries. This is random information, and some of it might not be complete. She's just putting it together from a whole bunch of different sessions. The Nazca lines in Peru, she was told they were made 12,500 years ago. An artist from the sky did it telepathically with a human in a hovercraft. They were doodles, just art, nothing significant. Not a landing zone. She said, you know, UFOs don't need lines on the ground. So they would, later, the same area was used for flying vehicles, but originally, it was just art. And the people would see these more advanced people as gods for their, let me say this right. The people then would see us now like gods because of the medicine we have and the technology we have. But they had anti-gravity and they had telepathy. So it's this weird, I don't know, kind of Star Trek-y. Gene Roddenberry, you know, he was channeling stuff. So many artists did this elsewhere. But the thing about the Nazca lines is they were done on a high plane, and the lack of weather and wind and the nature of the soil, the stone, gravel that was used, minerals that were used, preserved it, just coincidentally. And it was done in all variety of different places, and they just didn't survive the elements. Another subject said some lines were put there as direction points later, and people would, or beings would arrive and float down. But mostly the drawings were done in the spare time for fun by people flying around. Another subject said the lines were from various ages, and some of them were from the time of Lemuria, and some were directional and some were for fun. So the sense that you get is that they happened at different times, they had different uses, and the original thing, it was just art. Some were used later as an unsuccessful attempt to try to attract ETs to come back. Interestingly enough, there's high incidence of reporting of ET sightings in this area. So they said it was done for fun, it was done for a welcome to the UFOs. When the ETs brought hybridization. Then these are ETs, are these higher spirits, higher vibratory beings. We're trying to figure that out. Anyway, these beings brought hybridized corn, hybridized sugar, and cotton and potatoes to the New World. They are earth plants originally, but they hybridized them to make them good and help transform existing plants to be more useful. Another subject said that these Nazca lines were used as directions, and other communities like Machu Picchu had some, and some of them will be found, but not all of them. And they were even, and all of this much older than the Incas, much older. We think the Incas are old. And Cannon mentions that these reports from different subjects about different uses, and just, they're coming from different times. They're tapping into information from, could be thousands of years apart. So, of course, things would be different. Now, she asked about flood legends, and she was told that they were based on reality. They seem to be ubiquitous, global, that they are caused by land and upheaval, the melting of the ice caps, and polar shifts that happened many numbers of times. They happened rapidly sometimes. For example, the dinosaurs who died, the extinction of the dinosaurs with their food in their mouths, that was one of the times. The entire Earth was not covered, but it was widespread. There were pockets of survival. Easter Island was created by people from Atlantis, their culture, who migrated after the disaster. And they're facing the east, looking for the return of people from Atlantis. They're huge because size of heads, size of statuary was considered a sign of respect. And they said, don't look down on these people for making these things so big. For example, look at your movie screen. Look at how big the heads are of your big movie stars. You don't think that doesn't have a psychological effect on you? It does. One of the reasons that they become stars on the big screen. Okay, I made my point. However, they said when you have high esteem, you get gigantic problems. So they use the same tech as the pyramids for Easter Island, telepathic movement through energy. The hats, they had hats that fell off. Well, they were meant for people to sit on. They were these little seats so they could gaze at the idols, and hopefully they would sit and meditate, and they would gain their power back and their insight. And it was an attempt to speed up, to use mind control sort of thing, focusing energy to get the Atlanteans to come back by gazing out to sea with the idols and to work with the energy of the idols. And so it did work because it attracted ETs. So the writing found there was, I guess there were letterings found, were from those who created the idols. They were instructions on how to levitate. They include ideas and abstractions that are not present on Earth today, and therefore they're useless to us. The Egyptians and the olive-skinned people in that area came from the Atlanteans. Remember, people, as they separated, their appearances changed. We didn't start out different and all get the same. We started out the same and all got different. I think that's interesting. So we aren't at a proper energy level yet. And they said this, I thought this was so funny. You don't give an algebra book to a 3-year-old. But we will learn and we will grow. Now here's a new subject also talking about Easter Island. Easter Island was actually the top of a flooded mountain from Lemuria, and there were tribal people there who were capable of manifesting physical laws. They could make the statues still. They knew how to do that. And they were made in a very primitive period, 20,000 years ago or more. They made the stones malleable and shaped them by thought energy. Now this is a different subject talking about this. They face the direction of the sunrise, but it has changed since then. The statues are manifestations of guardian spirits of the clans who were their ancestors. They were primitive people and they had great psychic power. Their features were not exaggerated. This is how they looked. The people are more refined now and will be more refined in the age of Aquarius. I can hardly wait. So, the top knots on their head were representatives of the spiritual cord that connects them to the universe. They have been more recent people there that were cannibals and animalistic. And they wiped out the descendants of the Lemurians. They ate them. The Lemurians were advanced spiritually, but they lived very simply, very primitively. The newcomers were horrible, warlike, and they ate their hearts. You remember the Dawn of Everything talks about how these hunter-gatherer, warrior-like tribes would bring patriarchy and violence, and there's a consistency to these stories. On the Ark of the Covenant, remember we read Graham Hancock's book, The Sign and the Seal, I think, about the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia. So it was like a radio receiver, and it got and translated messages from a higher plane. It was used to communicate without words because people were not advanced. They were told how to house it, and it was created by beings who were assisting our planetary evolution. And they gave instructions on how to activate it. It was secret. It was used using cosmic energy. It still exists and is in a safe place. It was not dangerous, but there's more than one ark. There's one under glacial ice, there's one in a cave, and there's one that's stored safely in a bank vault of a very wealthy man, alive today. They were told it was dangerous, and I'm suspecting it had energy anyway, but they wanted to keep people away from it. They were people who wanted it for the wrong purposes. They didn't know how to safely use the energy, but mostly this was way over-exaggerated to scare people away from it and protect it. Keep it out of the wrong hands. During the rest of the session that she had, she talked with the person about the Bermuda Triangle, and they had two tape recorders going, and they both fell to static, and they couldn't hear. And the next time she did a session, she asked, why did that happen? I've never had that happen before. And she was told, people are not ready to hear this yet. We could not let you hear it. So was there an outside influence? She says this happens once in a while when in sessions, things will just, her recorder will crap out, or it'll seem to run, but when they play it back later, it's blank, or there'll be interference. Doesn't happen very often, but she's been told, well, she's dead now, but she was told that it had to do with the fact that people simply were not ready, just not ready. She said that the subject matter as a thought had energy like a deed, and it interfered with the recording. The thinking created the interference. The tech we have created, it's raising our awareness of our plane. And she tried some questions again about the Bermuda Triangle, and this time she was able to get information. This is at a later date with a different person. The Bermuda Triangle, in that water, there is sunken ancient machinery that contributes to a powerful creative vortex of energy on the earth at this spot. And the people that disappear through it, they're not dead. They're alive on a different plane of reality. They're not harmed. They pass through a door, and portal, and they develop super psychic abilities. The plane that disappeared went into this portal because of a magnetic flux. As people enter this area, they increase in their awareness and things look different to them, and they are in an advanced state. This area is not present all the time, and that's why it doesn't happen to everybody. The energies are erratic, they come and go. It's this machinery under the ground, under the water, occasionally acting up. The missing people pass through the portal to the other reality on the earth in another time, and many go into the future where Christ consciousness is. People there are used to people just appearing. Okay. And the missing people want to stay where they are. They want to stay missing because they're happier. It happened for universal reasons, but not consciously planned. Maybe because they were ready to advance and it was their opportunity to advance. She was told, now this is one of those topics that gets debated, we create our own destinies. And I think the way you could look at this is we carry this karmic debt that we need to put into balance. That would be, we've created our destiny. Here's your situation of your own making. So they chose this, and it's all our choice and our manner and place of death. There are several different options usually that we've kind of okayed, and on a subconscious level we're aware of it and prepared for it, and it's a choice. This is not written in stone. This is all choice. It's a really important distinction. So this machinery is under the water in the Bermuda Triangle, and it's like a gigantic broken mirror is actually what it's like. And occasionally the water will angle it to get the sunlight, and it reacts, has an energetic response, and it's really a crystal, but this is the best way they could describe it. It was inundated. It was part of Atlantis. It was broken on purpose at the time of the flood because it was being misused, and the energy flooded it, and they broke it to try to stop it, but it was too late. So this area will be uncovered at the next cataclysm. People will find it and the information in it to use it again only if the people are of a high character. So the writing is in stone. Writing is in stone. It will need to be deciphered. It won't be found until after the next upheaval of land. It won't be found until a time and people are appropriate. It contains information on thousands of years of Atlantean history and day-to-day life on Earth. And it's a summary of the collapse and the inundation. It was a master source of energy, and it could be used to channel many energies. It was used for healing, levitation, light, heat, motion. Many who live there now, many who lived there then are now incarnate. Many ask the questions, but do not believe the answers, she was told. And it's not that there are mysteries. We've been given answers, and people can't cope. So then she asked about the Loch Ness Monster. Now this is interesting. There are several creatures that look like that on the earth. They're freshwater reptiles. They live in deep lakes, in cave systems under the deep lakes. Siberia, they're kind of amphibians. Siberia, Lake Superior, Lake Baikal, Loch Ness. They're ancient. They've been here a long time. They're gentle. They're harmless. They eat aquatic plants. They lay eggs on the lake floor. They can use gills and lungs. They don't need to come to the surface. They rarely do, but they can, and they can walk on the surface. They don't do it very often, but more than we think. And some live in warmer bodies of water in the Amazon. They're landlocked because of the cataclysm. They didn't used to be. They used to live in the oceans. The ones in the oceans died because the salt content changed. They're sort of like dolphins and porpoises. They have vertebra. They can breathe air, but they don't have appendages. And some come onto the land briefly, rarely. They're secretive and they hide. Many died ages ago from old climate changes, but some were able to adapt. There are many creatures on the planet that are not known to all cultures. Sasquatch. And some of them may be underground, and that's why they're not known. And some of them are interdimensional. Also, there are, wait to hear this, There are people living underground still. Some are pre-Atlantis, some are left over. They're separate from each other. There's one animal that lives in the air that makes itself invisible. And now we get to the favorite subject, Yeti, the abominable snowman, Sasquatch, Bigfoot. They are real. They're widespread globally. They're shy. They're afraid of people. They're psychic. They're related to man. We could live side by side. They're intelligent. They're a parallel species. They're also genetically developed by the ancient ones. They don't have the violent streak that humans have, but they do it in self-defense. They're afraid of people, and they do it in self-defense, but we have decided that they're dangerous. If we didn't go after them, it would be a different situation. Man is encroaching, and they have adapted to many different environments as they move away from man. They aren't animals. They are evolved beings. They're spiritually in tune with nature, spirits, so they're a little bit different in that aspect. They're able to blend into the environment to hide. They're around more than people realize. They're remnants of primitive survivors of Lemurian disaster. They evolved more on a spiritual consciousness than we have. They're a protected race. They are protected by nature spirits. They communicate telepathically better than they do by voice, but they also have a form of speech. I'm telling you, you have to listen to the podcast, the Sasquatch Chronicles. Blow your mind. They read auras. They fear people. They won't eat carnivores. They're not as primitive as we think they are. They're very developed in some ways. How about that? Stonehenge. Stonehenge was or as proud graduates of our local high school call it, Stonehenge, a school of astronomy built by the Gaelic people around the time of the end of Atlantis. Many places have similar function but different shape. For example, the pyramids. Now this is coming from a different subject. They're built with thought energy and telepathy. We are not allowed to know the full story of the Mayans yet. They didn't die. They transported out of here as a group. They chose it to avoid the future they saw coming with Spain. It was a collective decision of a highly advanced people. It's just remarkable. Crop circles are communication from higher level to regular people about the nature of our existence and how it's different from common belief. And the message of the crop circles is, all is not as it seems. These are messages that resonate with individuals, and they resonate in a higher personal way and on a level that each person is open to. We're not ready to hear who makes them or to understand how they're made. They're relevant to the history of life on Earth. They're not random acts. They're fact. They're real. They're not a hoax. They're not a delusion. And they're a message. They're a message on the origin of life on this planet. And they emphasize over and over and over again, if you see a crop circle, if you see a picture of a crop circle, you subconsciously receive the message. You may not understand it now. You may not know you're getting the message now, but you receive the message. They're not made by people. We don't have the knowledge that's being communicated or the ability to do it. They're made by the keepers of the truth, not ETs. The keepers are not of this earth. They are of here, but not of the world as we know it. So we're talking interdimensional. Eventually, it will be revealed, and some people will go to them to seek higher understanding, often associated with UFO sightings and, or what do you call them? The little balls of light. I want to say globes. I know, that's not right. I forget the stupidest things. It'll come to me in a minute. Not auras, not globes of light. Oh, for heaven's sake. Anyway, they're of the spirit world, as we all are, but they're manifested unlike us. They're not physical, but they're energetic. They're able to direct energy on the earth to change, and they can change the molecular structure of the plants using the energy. And they have discovered that when they look at them under an electron microscope, the stems, the roots, the molecules of these plants are completely changed. Now I put a big question mark beside this. I'm going to repeat what it said. I don't understand it. They are physical machines made on another reality. Okay. They are physical machines, and another reality can do it, can make them. And they serve a function. They actually do something energetically, which is what makes them machines. Orbs. Sorry. That's what I was trying to say. Some people feel sick in the circles. They can't handle the energy. And some people feel good because their vibrations are more in keeping. That doesn't make the ones who feel sick lower or worse or anything. It's just different. They appear where the energy can be taken in. They are rivers of energy, and they flow in like a gateway. They're not coming from ETs. They're part of a higher level of us, from our own world. They're messages from ourselves. They're hyper-physical, and we will get there when we have a physical rise in our atomic vibration. And we can control our molecules. These messages are done as anagrams and puzzles and mathematical puzzles, and they're done out of love for ourselves. The energy of the earth itself is used, and the messages are from Mother Earth. Your thought pattern or energy will interconnect with the circles. So depending on what your energy is, you'll receive the point they're trying to make on some level or other. I'm going to keep going for a few more minutes, although this is the start of a new section, Section 4, Vibrations, Frequencies, and Levels. Chapter 9, The Awakening. She does a session with a woman named Pam, who describes seeing a Father Time guy from beyond the beyond, the Hall of Always. That's actually the official name. And he is often communicated with other people to inspire comfort and he appears in dreams and reveries. So this stereotypical notion of Father Time is actually a thing. There really is a being like that, like a guide, only bigger. People tend to label or put him in a box, but it's too limited to try to describe these beings or entities or spirits or energies in our 3D verbal earthly way. I mean, we don't have the words. It's not adequate. They don't really guide us. They're our friend. They're our assistants. Guides were never physical. Official guides. You can have helper spirit angels and helper spirit past family and friends. And then there's official designation of guide, who were a different kind of spirit, and they were never physical. Their job has always been to manifest the principles of love. She says, imagine the earth as a ping pong ball in the center of many concentric larger and larger orbs, and each on a plane of a different level, of many densities. We're the ping pong ball, and all these other things exist around us. This guy is light. He can permeate all the levels with light. The circles are all different vibrations that go out forever, and they connect with others and magnetically are attracted to similar vibes. This is starting to sound like physics class. Now, I'm not much of a physics student, but this sounds very much like the theory where, you know, the electrons, or, well, it's not theory, the electrons are going around the nucleus and faster and farther away, and then they have a space and they attract ions because they're unbalanced, and they attract another electron holding molecule, and the next thing you know, they're connected because they're drawn together by energy. This sounds really suspiciously similar, or maybe I'm just not, my brain's too small, but feels similar to me. So they have similar vibes. They're magnetically attracted, and they can transcend many density levels by practicing a connection to all that is. And this is true for us too. The greatest power is love. The greatest power in the universe is love. And strong vibes attract each other. And the only reason we're held back from all of this evolving is our thoughts and fears and beliefs and intention. That's all. 99% of us, 99% of our consciousness is asleep. We already exist in a realm of light and foreverness. Our responsibility is to bring this to the awake part of our consciousness. Your conscious thoughts are your power source, and they'll determine how far you go after you die, and if or when you will return to the physical state. And it's not a punitive thing, and it's not a bad thing. It's an evolutionary thing, and it just continues until it doesn't need to. There are ascended masters who transcend this whole thing right away. It's not possible to be in physical form and operate in the light. We have to get out of the physical, lose the density of the body. You could speed up every molecule in your body and transcend the plane, this physical plane right now, and you would just sort of twinkle away, like on Star Trek. It happens, but it's very rare. And it's not a way to escape death, because there is no death. There's just a movement into a higher plane. It's like trying to take your coat with you when you die. I like that. It makes no sense. It serves no purpose. Spirit has no need for a body. People like Jesus were so ascended that they could just change their vibes to reappear and disappear and reappear again, and that's all those stories. ETs disformulate. They decide that they're ready to move on. They don't die. They separate into glitter. Their energy goes off to a higher vibration. So you have to believe that you can do what Jesus did, because you can. You can transcend your body. Your belief system is a shaft of sleep. Mind is a tool of the spirit, and you must convince yourself that all is light, that every molecule is synonymous with love, and you can use this to increase your vibes in a limitless fashion. How you consciously think of light and you send out those vibes is like a satellite probe sending a lifeline. Every day we should focus on the light from every cell in our body and think of everything putting out light, and at the core of the light is love. And if you spent some time every day doing that, it would help. Just think of glowing threads, and aura going out into infinity, and they connect. We're all connected. We need to awaken to the fact that we are light, we are love, that every cell of molecule is light and love and connected. We have to know it and believe it and desire to be in it. This is great. We're asleep at the wheel of karma. It holds us back. Our beliefs are like ropes that bind us, and it determines the distractions that we hold on to. Our job as light beings is to send out belief highways to the light and connect with it. We are finally learning this thanks to mass communication. More people are becoming aware of the possibility of different realms, and more are becoming curious and deserving and having the intent and finally asking. More people are now asking for communication with invisible realms. And there seems to be an urgency from the angelic realms that we need to do that. But what they told her was, All you have to do is want it. All you have to do is ask for it, desire it, focus on it. It's not, well, it is, but it's not magic, but it is. You just have to focus on it. Everything is aware, just at different vibratory levels. So we mistakenly equate awareness with a light force, and that's really not true. Music is communication. Sound is vibration. We are vibration. Light is vibration. And it's all interpersonal and galactic communication. Think of the music of the spheres. That's a thing. So we're living in a plasma, and we could survive without eating food. Some species of light being do, ETs do, some. But our thoughts and pollution have reduced us to needing to eat food. The session with Leanna, she finds herself on a UFO in a golden light. She found herself in a huge bright room like an auditorium, dressed in light, told she had transcended physical limitations to venture into space and time to see the oneness of the universe. Your spirit can travel when it is ready. So changes are occurring, she was told, for this planet. People need to be shown the oneness with the universe. The planet needs to be cleansed. Some, like the subject, are being used to help as role models, as examples. This woman saw the earth changes, volcanoes, quakes, and explosions, and some people being shuttled to a large UFO to other planets. So they've raised their vibrations enough. They're still bodies, but they're able to adapt elsewhere. For example, they can walk through walls. A lot of people will die in the destruction, but more evolved people go to more evolved people leave. And then those who are left who survive regress. The world regresses, becomes more primitive. And it's more like pre-caveman because of the atmospheric changes. The air is more dense, and we start over again. And people who are taken exist in a place sort of as gases, like their molecules expand. And they accumulate more knowledge while they're there. They're free-floating, happy. It's nice. There are crystal structures of kind of a blue crystal glass, and they learn through the vibration of sound from them. Many are taken from the earth and go to a different place, the original home. It's a less dense physical state, and they had come to earth to help with evolution and spiritual development, and eventually some of them are going to return to earth to lead and help, just like they did before, like the Atlanteans who were came back. And they will try to help us, and they'll learn from the earth experience. They'll be more highly evolved species, and they come back to help the less evolved still on the earth. 100% of the earth will start over again. There will be a number of small surviving civilizations, and they will all regress. And when asked to tell what the world looked like, the cataclysm, she describes exactly what Nostradamus described in Volume 2, which at the time that this session happened had not been published. And her advice, the canon says, well, what can we do? Her advice was treat others as you would have them treat you. That's it. It's not about saving your own skin. It's not about storing up meals ready to eat. It's about doing the hard spiritual work of treating people well and accepting whatever it is that's going to happen. So, the golden rule, do unto others. It's in 7 basic religions on a planet. In Brahmanism, this is the sum of duty. Do not unto others which would cause you pain if done to you, from the Mahabharata. Buddhism, hurt not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful, from the Udana Varga. Confucianism, surely it's the maxim of loving kindness, do not do unto others what you would not have them do unto you, the Analects. Taoism, Regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain and your neighbor's loss as your own loss. And I'm not even going to try to say this, a big long name that I can't pronounce. Zoroastrianism, that nature alone is good, which refrains from doing unto another whatsoever is not good for itself. From Dadistan. Judaism, what is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow man. That is the entire law. All the rest is commentary. From the Talmud. Christianity, all things whatsoever ye would that man should do to you, do ye even so to them, for this is the law and the prophets. Matthew. Islam, no one of you is a believer until he desires for his brother that which he desires for himself. The Sunnah. So if the vibes of the people, the vibrations of people change, people will be kinder and the earth will heal. And we can only do it one by one by one. Do unto others. It's not a big fix. It's an individual, easy, small fix. We are one planet, and we are one with the planet. There is no separation. And there are alternative futures. It's not written in stone. It's not certain, which is why it's rare, the person who's really capable of looking way into the future and predicting, because there are many parallel futures. And it's all up to us. It's up to our decisions, our individual decisions. Free will. And that's the end of that chapter. I thought that ended on an interesting note. Do unto others. And I'm going to stop this. And I might do another one today. We'll see. But thank you for watching. That's the end of video number 4. And until I return, slung of oil. Sluncha.